Welcome back to our Endgame community. Thank you so much for joining us again. If you're new to this channel, we're glad to have you. We're going to break down everything that matters in fantasy football all offseason long. And right now, it's time to talk wide receivers with our Royal Rumble series. We're going to talk about two wide receivers that are really close in ADP, try to figure out which way do you go on draft day. And this is going to be the teammate edition. We're going to start with a pair of Bucks. And we're going to talk about Mike Evans versus Chris Godwin. You know, when you're on the clock and you're trying to figure out who to take at wide receiver in about round 3, usually, it's tough to pick. Godwin was kind of the trendy pick last year. Evans is now kind of old reliable. It's hard to believe. I had to look this up. He's been in the league 7 years. It feels like it hasn't been that long. But who do you prefer on draft day, Chris?
Yeah, before AB re-signed Antonio Brown, it was closer for me, but now it's definitely Mike Evans, simply because I feel like, Godwin and Antonio Brown both kind of run those intermediate, routes, those similar routes. Whereas Mike Evans, nobody does what Mike Evans does on the Bucs, right? He's a big outside receiver. He can go up and get it. And we saw last year when they got near the red zone, he was the guy Brady kept always looking for, right? He was like Brady's red zone guy. There would be some weeks where he'd have, 2 or 3 catches, but he'd have 2 touchdowns and he would save his fantasy value. So for me, you like them both, think they're both going to be fine. Would like Godwin more if Antonio Brown hadn't come back. So for me, Mike Evans is the choice here over Chris Godwin.
Yeah, it does feel pretty close, but I also have to lean Evans. Look, this is a guy that goes over 1,000 yards every single season, regardless of how many games he plays. And we know in the red zone, he is the man. So I also am a little bitter because I was burnt by Chris Godwin, drafting him too high in several leagues last year. But that aside, yeah, Evans it seems to be the number one target there, even with Tom Brady in town. That did not change. So I do prefer him. It is close, and I'm not saying to fade Godwin by any means, but Evans to me is the guy I would take every time over Godwin. All right, now let's move on to some Cowboys. Plenty of Cowboy receivers of interest here, but we're going to talk about Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb. Look, we do these mock drafts every single week, and we've seen these guys flip-flop every time. It seems like some people prefer Cooper and some think that Lamb is going to take a step forward. Which way do you go?
Yeah, this one is really close for me. I think this is a 1A, 1B situation, but I'm giving Lamb the very, very, very slight edge in 2021. We saw last year with Dak, he was starting to come along. I think that continues this year. Look, Cooper's great. Cooper's still going to be, used heavily in this offense. He's going to have plenty of fantasy football value. I don't think you can go wrong with either of these guys. But I think in 2021, we see Lamb, take that next step and emerge as the Cowboys' number one wide receiver. Again, like I said, kind of like a 1A, 1B situation here. Honestly, wouldn't surprise me if whichever way this ends up being at the end of the year wouldn't surprise me. But as of right now, I give Lamb the slightest of edges.
So this one is interesting because I get the whole concept of Lamb taking a step forward in his second season. He didn't really have the benefit of that full in-person training camp, and the rookies just in general really should get a pass for last season. But here's the thing is he didn't have that full season with Dak to work on chemistry. Cooper, to me, kind of by default, is going to be the number one target because he's that known commodity. He's the one I think that Dak Prescott will look to first. I wouldn't be surprised if Lamb maybe led the way in terms of targets and even receptions, but I feel like Cooper might have more yards and probably get more work in the red zone, just being the slightly bigger target, but also, again, having that trust. He also runs deeper routes. Lamb, of course, working underneath a little bit more. It's really close. You're splitting hairs here. Personally, in a full PPR league, I get going with Lamb, but I actually give the slight edge to Cooper just because I think that in any given week, he has a higher ceiling. All right, and then the final pair of wide receiver teammates we're going to talk about, a young, exciting group in Cincinnati, but who do you really trust between T. Higgins and Jamar Chase? This is really interesting to me because a lot of people just assume that Chase, based on where he was drafted, is going to become the guy there. But they already had T. Higgins, and he was the guy last year for the most part. Which way do you lean?
This is so hard for me. Because like what you just said, I could see both sides of the argument. I could see, Joe Burrow allegedly, really pushed for them to draft Ja'Marr Chase. So is it going to be like backyard buddies, go out there and he just force feeds Ja'Marr Chase a bunch of targets, whether he's open or not, doesn't care, just throws it to him. But on the other side, he actually played NFL games with T. Higgins last year, and they had quite the connection. T. Higgins was very good with him. So I could see both ways here. I mean, excluding like, you know, who's being drafted earlier than the other, because they actually are going very close together here. I think I would lean Ja'Marr Chase. I think I'm going to buy the narrative that, you know, Joe Burrow is just going to throw him the ball over. We saw last year, he was force feeding AJ Green targets when AJ Green couldn't even get separation. He didn't care. He was just throwing the ball to AJ Green anyways. I think we can see something similar with Ja'Marr Chase here, but this to me, this whole situation in Cincinnati is so hard for me to figure out. It's just really a challenge for me to figure out. So I'm going to say Ja'Marr Chase, but I don't feel great about it at all.
Yeah, you know, I think I'm going to kind of cheat here too and just say pick the guy who's drafted later because you get a better value, right? If Higgins goes first, then, you know, a couple spots are around later, maybe grab Chase's fee still there and vice versa. But look, as far as who is going to be more valuable, let me say what I've said before on some of our community chats here. This whole narrative of, okay, they wanted Chase because he's got that connection with Burrow from college, right? The LSU connection. He connected. How long did he connect with him exactly? From what I recall, it was one season, right? One magical season in college. How long has he been connecting with T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd? One season. And guess what? That was in Cincinnati in the NFL. So I don't see that there's some big advantage to Chase being there. He's the one who's going to be a rookie. He's the one who's going to have to, you know, learn the system and find his way and compete and prove that he is just as good or better than T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd. Just because he was drafted early in the top 10 doesn't automatically mean he's the guy. He still has to earn his stripes, pun intended, in Cincinnati. So you know what? I'm going to lean with Higgins just because we've seen what he can do there. Maybe by season's end, yeah, Chase does take over the spot, but I would rather have Higgins, especially if someone's going to draft Chase first. I'll wait and I'll take Higgins. And you know what? To that end, probably Tyler Boyd's being underdrafted. He might be the guy who leads the whole team in receiving, and he's being drafted a round or two later than both these guys. All right, well, that does it for our wide receiver Royal Rumble. Check us out each and every week. We're going to talk about different topics related to draft strategy to help you win. We're starting right now. There's no need to waste time. We're going to try to help you win in 2021. Join us. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and leave us a comment. Tell us what you think. All right. Thanks for watching.